Leo Sparrow. Yeah, you know I'm the son of the sun. I'm the man, I'm the vegan, I'm the one to become. I keep it clean with my eating. I am undefeated. Nobody stepping to me, you know.
Welcome to the only Danish podcast about pro wrestling. In this episode, we have a very, very special guest. We have the son of the sun, the vegan champion, the wrestler that took MJF to the limits and beyond, and the current VPW singles champion and FWF tag team champion with VSK. And you can actually see the belt in the background. So Leo Sparrow, my question to you: every wrestler has a story to tell. Are you ready to tell yours?
Let's do it. That's why I'm here.
Oh, perfect. So, Leo, I think a lot of people here in Europe, Denmark especially, do not really know who Leo Sparrow is. So could you take us all the way back to tell us your background story before pro wrestling?
Sure. So right now I'm a vegan pro wrestler, just trying to save the earth, one show at a time. But it started way before that. I became a wrestling fan when I was in elementary school, and I kind of didn't like anything else. There was no sports for me, no extracurriculars. It was kind of just all wrestling because that's what I liked. So I knew that when I grew up and I wanted to have a real adult job, it would be something within the wrestling world. So then later on, I went to business school for college, and this was pre-COVID. I was offered an internship by WWE because that's who I wanted to work for, like I said. And they ended up canceling that because of the pandemic. So that sucks, whatever, it happens. A lot of bad things happen during the pandemic, but it made it easy for me because I decided to take it another route, and that was to sign up for wrestling school. So I already had the business background that I could apply to myself as a brand, as a wrestler. And then I have the wrestling school where I could go to learn to actually wrestle. And because of that, and because you sponsored me last month, I brought home the VPW championship.
Oh, and we're actually so proud to sponsor a talent. Yeah. Actually, I think we have a tiny part in you winning that.
Absolutely. I agree completely. And today, as we're filming this, August 10th, I have another title defense today against Bryce Donnavan, who was the champion before me. So I plan on kicking his ass. So thank you very much.
And we saw a little bit about some quite heavy boots that you have applied before this match. Could you tell us a little bit about those boots and
That's
why
right.
you're using them?
It's a little part of my game plan going into today. I got some metal-lined boots to make me heavier, so Bryce Donnavan can't chokeslam me, because show after show, I keep getting chokeslammed by Bryce Donnavan, and it sucks. So I want to put an end to it. I'm going to make myself as heavy as possible so he can't even lift me.
And maybe you should actually learn him to eat some more healthy vegetables.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Maybe he's a little bit off balance.
Yes, maybe if he ate those vegetables, then he would be able to lift me even when I'm wearing the boots.
Yeah. So he is just in over his head this time.
Yes. Yep. Yes. Exactly.
So now we were talking a little bit about your background, but I think we should dive a little bit more into the match and Bryce Donnavan. How do you prepare for a match like this? It's your first title defense after winning the VPW championship.
Yeah, last summer I was the New York State champion of VPW, so I kind of had multiple title defenses, one after another, as a champion does. So I understand what it's like being a champion in VPW and having to defend your championship successfully. So I'm just going to apply everything I learned last year to this year. But this year it means a lot more because it's the Victory Pro Wrestling Championship. It's not the New York State Championship. So there's a lot more riding on this. It's the back of the entire company. And Bryce was a champion before me, like I said, and he was a good champion, but he's not me. He's not the king of Kale. He's not the son of the sun. He's Bryce Donnavan. So if he can beat me, then he can try, but I think I'll be walking out tonight with the VPW championship.
Couldn't you actually, Leo, call Bryce Donnavan a husband? something from the past, trying to dive into the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I call him a carnivore. I'd call him an utter sucker.
Yeah.
Someone who doesn't
So,
let the plant power flow through his veins to hold up a championship. You can't have a champion like that.
and for sure, here at the podcast, we're convinced that you will defend it and retain, of course. Nothing else
That's right.
matters, one could actually say. So, but going into this, taking another path towards being a pro wrestler, how did you take that choice, and why did you take it? You told us a little bit about COVID, but there should be some other considerations behind it.
Sure, yeah. So being a pro wrestler is the hardest thing I've ever done. It's extremely challenging physically, mentally, emotionally, every way. And I knew that when I started that it was going to be really hard, but I remember having this conversation with myself, do I want to put up with this for my entire career? And I remember just thinking like, I just love it and I love even though it hurts physically and mentally, I love the way it hurts, and there's nothing else I'd rather do.
Yeah, but isn't that one thing that you have to do, that you have to love the pain a little bit?
Yeah, you have to learn to love it.
Yeah. Okay. Learn to love it or something like that. But from there on, traveling towards starting training, your first period of training at the Create a Pro Academy, how
Mhm.
did you choose that academy before any other academies?
I chose Create a Pro Wrestling Academy because of the track record, and I went and I sat in on a class before I signed up, and I saw how they taught, and it resonated with me. I thought that it would really work out for me the way that they teach with discipline, and just a whole bunch of people in different perspectives come to form one kind of wrestling knowledge that is instilled upon the students. So that's what I like, is just different perspectives, um, discipline, hard work. It's a great environment, a lot of other good students. So it really made it easy when I saw the track record. People like Max Caster, people like Chris Statlander, Bear Bronson, MJF, all these people who went on to go on and win championships and be on television wrestling, doing what they love, all started at Creative Pro. So I thought if I start and I just don't stop and I'm really good along the way, then there's no other option than to succeed.
And here you are now with a championship,
That's
an
right.
important one, exactly. But one thing is, because I could imagine there's a lot of pro wrestling academy school in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that environment? Because quality before money, or is it expensive, or?
It is expensive, but you get what you pay for. There are wrestling schools that are less expensive, but they're less expensive for a reason. I looked at the trainers at Creative Pro, Pat Buck, Brian Myers, Max Caster, and just from what I know about them and their own history, I thought these are some great guys to learn under.
So how the first years of training there, how did it influence you as a wrestler? Because Max Caster is one thing, Brian Myers is another thing. How did it all fits together to create the wrestler Leo Sparrow?
Yeah, it's funny the way that it works, because it is just like you said, there's different trainers and you pick up the best parts of each one and you try and mold it into the wrestler that you later become. That they build your foundation from multiple different perspectives and ways of teaching. And if you're able to pick and choose what works for you, that's how you'll find success.
Interesting, because I think it's actually hard at first finding your path, finding the way, the wrestler that you want to be, because everyone looks in the television and say, well, I want to be a little bit like him, and him.
Yes.
So who was your inspiration going into this Creative Pro Academy?
My favorite wrestlers growing up, all time, I'd say, were it's gonna make me sound so young, but Zack Ryder and Dolph Ziggler. And those are
Oh,
two guys like Dolph Ziggler, I just think is a phenomenal wrestler. I love the way that he does everything. So I want to be like him. And Zack Ryder, now Matt Cardona, is someone who looks at it from a business point of view. And like I said, me coming from business school was something that resonated with me, something that inspired me. So I wanted to pick up his kind of business mind for the wrestling industry and mix it with Dolph Ziggler's wrestling ability, character, things like that to make one vegan pro wrestler package.
yeah. So it's quite interesting because a lot of wrestlers are not talking about that business perspective of pro wrestling because it's all I want to be a good wrestler. But as you stated, Matt Cardona showed the wrestling
Mhm.
world a whole different and new perspective of how to succeed in the world of wrestling outside of some of the big promotions.
Yeah, you could just say, he's a WWE guy. He would have been successful either way outside of after WWE life. But if you really look at it, it's like it's a completely different character. He's not Zack Ryder anymore. He says Zack Ryder's dead. He's not relying on that at all. He built his own fan base up from after WWE life, and that's what I want to kind of mold myself after, is someone who understands the business perspective.
Yeah, because I think it's important for wrestlers to know that there's a world outside of some of the big promotions and
Yeah.
there's possibilities as well.
Yeah, a lot of wrestlers just want to be a good wrestler, like you said, but anybody can go to wrestling school, anybody can study wrestling and learn how to be a great wrestler. But it takes more looking at it outside of the box to look at yourself as like an individual brand and what can I do in wrestling and outside of wrestling to grow my own brand.
Because you have to build up this confidence, self-esteem that has to shine through in your character as well.
Hmm.
And I
Absolutely.
saw that looking at some of your promos going around the vegetables or something like that. I love it. And that's why we also sponsored you, because we like wrestlers who stands out,
Nice.
who
Cool. Thank
who
you.
uses their character and look at character development. Because
Hmm.
for me, wrestling, the character is way more important than sometimes your skills in the ring,
Yep.
because the character gives everything to the audience, and the skills, your skill set in the ring gives gives everything else instead. So how developing from all your influences from Brian Myers, Max Caster, Pat Buck, how did you mold into being the vegan champion? Because one thing is there should be some stepping stones before choosing to be that type of
Yeah.
wrestler.
It was something that, well, veganism is something that I do in my everyday life.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find myself in wrestling and be able to translate it to the wrestling crowd and what I do in the ring. So something that I do in my matches is I have a bag of spinach and I take out a handful and I throw it at the crowd, or I'll throw it at my opponent. And that, just looking at it, you can tell, oh, okay, this guy's throwing spinach. He must be a vegetable guy. He must be an earth guy or something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
You get the message by literally throwing it in their face.
Yeah. Or maybe people actually think that you're helping them like Popeye.
I am helping them. From
Yeah,
my
eating
perspective, I'm
spinach.
helping
Yeah,
them.
yeah, exactly. You're helping them to get stronger. They
Yep,
should eat their spinach. It
they
will
should.
help them
They
eventually.
should be thanking me.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, they should. So Leo, moving on, you had your training and you met a lot of people, but in every wrestler story, there's the first match. And your first match, after a little bit of digging, was on Cap TV season 3, episode 1. Even Stevens defeated you,
Mm.
Leo Sparrow and Will Williams. So please give us the story behind that match
Yeah,
and
so
everything building up to it, because your feelings before going through the curtains and so on.
yeah, I don't count that as my first match. I count that
Okay.
as my second match because
Okay.
this we were filming Cap TV, which is our Creator Pro YouTube show, Cap TV,
Yeah.
and that was filmed after I filmed another match, which aired later. So in
Ah,
reality, I had my second match first and my first match second. So my
okay.
real
So
first
let's
match
hear
was,
about both matches
yeah,
then.
absolutely. They were both on the same day. So
Yeah.
I first wrestled Phil Cardigan. That was my first match, Leo Sparrow versus Phil Cardigan. And I remember that match. He really pissed me off because he pulled out a Slim Jim during the match, and he was
No.
chomping on the Slim Jim like I wasn't going to see it, or the fans or the referee wasn't going to see it. I don't know why he wanted a snack mid-match, but it's a meat stick, so it made me pretty pissed off. But he DDT'd me and picked up the win there, so that sucks. But later on, I had a little help going into that tag match. Me and Will Williams, Even Stevens. I don't remember anything about that match. I remember losing, but
Yeah.
I don't know who got pinned. If I didn't get pinned, it's not my fault. So I'll blame it all.
No, no, it's always the other guy.
That's right.
So how did you prepare towards your two first matches then? Because there should be a lot of preparation. Are you a wrestler that likes to arrange everything and talk everything through a match, or just take it
Here
as
and
it
there,
goes?
here and there. Leading up to it, the matches took place in the same ring that I trained in, so I was very comfortable being in that environment, and it wasn't a match that I would have today because I'm a better wrestler today. I'm a more thought out wrestler today. I know what I want to do going into it. Probably the reason why I lost those matches was because I wasn't what I am today. They've been wrestling longer than me. They understand what to do better than me. So that's why I lost.
Yeah, yeah. Experience sometimes has plays a factor, actually. But you but your first years as a pro wrestler, I've said mentioned some stuff, but could you try and talk us through developing your finisher, how wrestling in a lot of different promotions, how that has influenced you, and so on? So just take us through everything that you find
Sure.
interesting for our listeners too.
So I find moves that I like to do. It has to be fun for me to do it. Like I love drop kicking someone. I love doing a moonsault or a frog splash onto somebody. It's just so fun. And something I could take it and twist it into my own little move. So I do the broccoli buster, for example. My favorite move to hit is the broccoli buster.
Fantastic.
So it's like the Bronco Buster, right? Except it's a little different with my positioning versus, say, X-Pac's positioning when he would do the
Yeah.
Bronco Buster. He would run into it. I'm standing on the second rope above. So it's a little
Ah,
different. So I tweaked the name just a little bit just to make it mine. That's the Broccoli Buster. But then, like, when I do a frog splash, it's the same frog splash everybody else does, but I just enjoy doing it. So that's why
ah,
I do it. But also it helps me win matches because it's something off the top rope.
ah,
When going to different companies, like you said,
yeah.
I like to think about my matches, and I always think about what can I take out of this match? What can I use from this match that will make me a better wrestler? What can I learn from this experience? Whether it just be something I learned on the car ride there with somebody else that I heard, or something that I learned or did in the ring that I said, that was good. I should hold on to that. Or something that my opponent did to me that I'm like, you know what? I'm going to steal that because that's happened before.
Ah, nice. But you have if we take some of your key matches before going into, as I mentioned, everyone should actually, I think, a little bit curious about your match with MJF. But could we take some of your key matches before that, and which wrestler stands out for you? Because you said, yeah, your first matches was a little bit difficult going into it, but who has made an impact on you?
Earlier on in my
Yeah,
career,
yeah, early on in your
hmm,
career.
a lot of my matches earlier on were like not for me, I'd
Oh,
say. I was just the opponent of the night, or I was the teammate of the night. So being able to sit back and watch the other wrestlers, what they choose to do in the ring, how they carry themselves to and from the ring even, and how they interact with each other in the ring and the wrestling styles. It was like a class. I could just sit and watch and see
Mm.
what they're doing, why they're making those choices. And then if I'm friendly with them, I could even talk to them about it afterwards, say, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And that's kind of what developed me into being a better wrestler.
Nice. And how did you use, as you were telling us a little bit earlier on, how did you use the disappointment not going to WWE to elevate you, to make you stronger as a wrestler?
Yeah,
Because some people take disappointments quite hard, and
it was disappointing for me. But later on, I just decided, it made the decision very easy, because it say that they didn't say yes, then it would have this position that they offered me, and my dreams of becoming a pro wrestler, and you can't do both. So it just made take this one away. I'm just left with this. Might as well put everything into this, and that's exactly what I did, and that's where we are.
yeah, exactly. But I think as you started wrestling your first two matches, because a lot of things going around, you see a lot of young aspiring wrestlers wanted to get booked in different promotions. How was it as a new wrestler to get booked in different promotion? Was it easy for you, or did you have to put a lot of hard work into getting booked?
Both, definitely. It's hard just making those connections when you know nobody. So just really getting in the car and showing up and helping out is the best way to make connections. And I understood that. I think a lot of people at Creative Pro understand that, because that's just the environment. And then going into these places, saying that you're a Creative Pro student, then they'll understand, oh, I can use this person. They'll actually be of value to my company.
Hmm. So it was actually a stamp of approval that you have wrestled at Creative Pros. So that's quite interesting. And so going forward, I've mentioned some of your matches, MJF, Omos, and Raw, and so on. Could you take us first, because I think we should wait a little bit with the MJF, the match against Omos, the
Mhm.
Nigerian Giant on Raw. How
Yeah.
did that match came about?
So that was my 11th match ever, and it was
Yeah.
on Monday Night Raw. I was hanging out at home the night before, and I got a call from the person who was booking extra talent, and he said, "Can you be in Philadelphia tomorrow?" And I live in New York, and I was like, "Absolutely, for Monday Night Raw, sure." So I drove, and I was just eating my lunch, and they came up to me and they said, "You're gonna wrestle tonight." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Against
Okay.
who?" They said, "Omos," and I said, "Oh shit." So right then and there, I knew what was going to happen, but I had no choice but to suck it up. And I'm glad I sucked it up, because it was a good moment for me. I really enjoyed it.
So how is he as a wrestler? Because we always see this Nigerian giant, and he's been a little bit sidelined at the moment. So how was it going into the ring? Did you talk a lot with him before the match, or
Before the match, no, I didn't talk to him too much. I mainly just saw him before I
yeah?
went out there. Didn't really have too much of a conversation about it, but even if we did have a conversation about it, there wouldn't have been too much I could control, because he's just that much bigger than me. So
Yeah,
early on in the match, I tried to hit him with a move to catch him off guard, but couldn't even butt him, and that's when I knew I was screwed. So he took
yeah,
over from there, and then that's all I remember.
yeah. And now you've tried WWE, and a lot of people are talking about WWE, AEW. You've been on AEW as well. How was that experience?
I've been on like segments of AEW. I've never had an
Yeah.
AEW match though.
Ah,
So
okay.
I can't even remember the segments I did on AEW. I know one of them was a music video for the Acclaimed that was on Rampage.
Ah,
And then,
yes.
oh, so Dynamite was there was a steel cage. It was the 3-year anniversary of AEW Dynamite. And there was a steel cage. I think it was Wardlow versus Shawn Spears, and MJF was the special guest referee. And later on, They had all the security guys come out, and I was one of them. And
Hmm.
Wardlow power bombed me into the steel cage, and then I fell underneath the ring.
Oh,
So that was a popular tweet of the night, was me getting destroyed by Wardlow on the steel cage. But I can't even believe I just forgot that. But yeah, that's something that happened, and that hurt a lot.
so you went viral there, one could say.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, okay. So now we have talked a lot of those. So the match with MJF, you have been to the same wrestling school. He is, for me, a legend already. He is an amazing wrestler, an amazing personality. So how did that match came about? And
That match was a total surprise. Max was advertised for the show, but he was just doing like a meet and greet, maybe a promo in the ring or something. I don't know. I just knew that I had a promo and a match.
yeah,
So I go in, I have my match, I win my match, and then they tell me, say Max's catchphrase. So I said that in the ring, thinking it would be the end of it, and then I hear his music, and I'm like, oh no. Now, because now I don't know what's going on. So then he comes to the ring and he cuts his own promo, and then they get the referee out there. So that's about how it went. The fans found out just as I found out.
oh, so how was the match with MJF?
It was very memorable for me. It taught me a lot. Like I said, stealing things from people I wrestle. I stole a lot from that match about how to create memorable experiences for the fans. So I know that he kicked me in the nuts a lot during that match, but I was able to get him back. And then later on in the match, he low blowed me and made me tap out. So that part wasn't fun. But the part where I was in control, had a great time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. So if we look beyond that match, is there anyone out there that you would like to wrestle besides MJF?
Oh
Do you
yeah,
have a top three or someone
a
who
ton of
is
people.
active? Yeah.
Ton of people.
If you
So
if you
my two favorite wrestlers, like I said before, Dolph Ziggler, Zack Ryder. Those are two people who I haven't wrestled yet, but I would love to, and I know that it's a possibility because they're both doing indies right now, or they're both on TNA or GCW. They're doing indie shows, so I know it's a possibility. I would love to wrestle those guys.
Hmm. Actually, Matt Cardona is coming to Denmark in November
Oh yeah,
to wrestle. Yeah, yeah, to wrestle.
sorry to
Yeah,
hear that.
yeah. So it'll be interesting. I haven't seen him live either, so
Yeah,
I'm quite looking forward to it. So,
you're gonna have to put
so
up with him and all of his stuff. So good luck with that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a diva actually, or
Yeah, he is a diva.
yeah, yeah, he should be actually. So if we look a lot, we have talked a lot about the biggest challenge that you have overcome in your career until now. If you could put some words, tell us some
Hmm.
words about it.
Wrestling is interesting because there's no off season. It's just a
Mm.
24/7 every weekend for the rest of your life if you want it to be. So it's more of a continuous struggle, a continuous battle, as opposed to what is one thing that you were able to get over emotionally. So any I think injuries would be a definite struggle. I've been lucky I haven't had that many injuries that take me out for too long. Um, just the process of training and learning can be difficult, but once the light bulb goes off in your head, you're like,
Yeah,
okay, now I get it. Now it was worth it. Now the struggle's in the past until you find a new struggle and then you have to learn that. So it's a continuous game and you have to have a passion for it if you want to pursue it.
yeah. Interesting, interesting. So now we talked about your career and so on. I think we should talk a little bit about the Danish connection, as I called it.
All right.
So, yeah, yeah. So, what did you think when you saw that a Danish podcast about pro wrestling did sponsor you?
I didn't know that you were Danish until I looked into the podcast. I saw Wrestlers and Nerds podcast sponsored me. I said, that's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
And then I went on the page. I said, Denmark. How do they know about me? Why did they even care about me? So I appreciate you caring about me. like that and wanting to have me on
Thank
your
you.
podcast. But it was more of just, how did this person find out about me?
Yeah, you could actually answer that question to me, actually. So, yeah, how did we actually find out you? Well, as I told you early on, we always look at wrestlers who stands out.
Mm.
Uh, I think I would like to give a lot of love back to the indie scene, especially because everyone out there is busting their ass off every day, giving us something amazing to look at. So, and I had some good talks, and we did some sponsorships early on at Victory Pro Wrestling by coincidence, actually. And then he's always good at writing back and answering and so on. And yeah, for me, when I find something that works and where we get some good responses and good connection, I just keep it there, look at the roster, and yeah, doing some sponsorships to give something back because we have the possibility to do that.
Great.
And
Love that.
so yeah, so I think until now we'll stick with Victory Pro because we have such a good experience. So I'll just pick a wrestler at every show, at least one to sponsor. So
Nice. And I'm the champion
so
of VPW, so you couldn't
yeah,
have
yeah.
picked a better company.
No, and we're proud that we actually picked one, but that's because we believe in you. So so Leo, actually, do you ever considering coming to Denmark to wrestle
I would
if you
love to
had the
come to Denmark
chance?
to wrestle.
Yeah.
I am passport ready. I've wrestled only outside the United States and Canada because I could drive there, but I can't
Ah.
drive to Denmark. So I would fly to Denmark and wrestle. How's
Oh.
how's the indie scene out there? You got a lot of indie companies?
Yeah, we got the three at the moment, and the wrestling scene is actually in a very good position now. It's
Wow.
flourishing. Yeah, it's developing. We got a new. I live a little bit south of Copenhagen, the capital. We have Nordic Elite Wrestling, the newest company in Denmark, has a very focus on their own wrestlers and taking some international talents in from time to time. We have Danish Pro Wrestling. The owner of that company is the co-host with me on this podcast. And then we have something called Body Slam, who is probably the best known company outside of Denmark. So we have
Nice.
these
That's
three
awesome. Love to hear
companies.
that.
Yeah, and they're doing quite good shows, and a lot of the shows are sold out. So there's a big show here coming up in September. I think. Well, last year there was around 900 people there. So yeah, the wrestling
Sounds
scene
like a
is in
great
a
time.
yeah. It was actually it was. The wrestling scene is going in the right direction. So yeah, it's quite interesting going forward.
Yeah. Well,
So
I am the Earth champion, and you can't be
yeah,
the Earth champion without visiting all areas of the Earth. So I would
no.
definitely love to come to Denmark and
Yeah,
wrestle.
yeah. I'll point them in your direction if they're going. So
Excellent.
actually, a good friend that I met interviewing on the podcast. He's actually, I think he's from around New York. The Natural, Nick Sullivan. Do you know him?
I don't.
No, he's actually coming to Denmark in late October, November.
Nice. That's
Because
great.
yeah,
Maybe I'll
so
come defend the VPW championship.
yeah, that could
Denmark.
be interesting. Yeah. So we have talked a lot about the present, but if we do you have some, you could say, good stories from the locker room stories, some crazy stories, something that you think, oh well, I want to tell the Danish listeners this story.
I'm really good at minding my business in the locker
Ah,
room. So
ah.
I try not to get into situations where it will result in a crazy story. Huh. Crazy
So
stories? I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything wild or crazy that's happened, and I don't know that I find myself in those situations. I show up to the building, I go to the merch table, I do my match, I go back to the merch table, and then I go home.
okay.
I've had a few long drives, either by myself or with friends, and those conversations that we have in the car can get fun, can get deep, can get really
Okay.
memorable. So it's good having those times with your friends on the road where you can really grow your friendship, because I don't have friends outside of wrestling, or I don't do anything outside of wrestling. So those are the times that you cherish, or like you said, in the locker room or in the car, where you can grow your relationships with the other people in the wrestling industry. That's what I love about it. It's just making friends that have the same mindset as me, and want to be successful, and just love wrestling like I do.
So I think then let's give it another twist then, Leo.
Yeah.
So if you want to do a shout out, one or two wrestlers that people do not know in Denmark. So now is your chance to mention
Okay.
someone else.
I'm going to shout out Bryce Donnavan, because I don't think anybody outside of Long Island has ever heard of Bryce Donnavan. So today I'm going to kick your ass, and I'm going to retain my championship. Good luck, because you're going to need it. And other than that, I'll shout out my friends who I love in wrestling. We have the artist, Jake Lang, creative pro graduate. Dante Drago is the best. The leading man, Jack Tomlinson. Sebia Moore in Los Toxicos. And the rocker boy, Nick Robles. Those are my friends. Those are who I love in wrestling. And we're all going through this together and learning how to be good wrestlers and hit the road and make sure everybody knows our name and get out there. So everybody else, all the other wrestlers that are listening to this, get in your car, drive to a wrestling show this weekend. Make sure somebody leaves remembering your name and your character. And that's just how you do it. Keep going. That's what I'm trying to do too.
Nice. So, well, I should look at some of those. Actually, I saw a promo from the leading man today. I love it. That was a good one. Yeah, he's good, actually.
They all wrestle at VPW as well.
Yeah.
They're all really good wrestlers.
I'll put maybe I'm looking that way next time, because I really love that promo from the leading man. The great promo work is one of my soft spots, one could say, actually. So thank you, Leo, for the shout out. I think before we are closing this interview, because it's been such a pleasure talking to you and feeling your passion for pro wrestling, because, yeah, that's actually the same passion that we have doing the podcast and so on. How does the future look for Leo Sparrow?
I'm the son of the sun, right? So to say that the future is bright is an understatement. I think every day about how scared I am of my potential of being successful in the wrestling industry, but it's something that's already mine. I just have to step up and claim my prize, basically, and I'm going to enjoy the journey along the way.
Oh, nice. And how do you develop such an amazing character as a vegan champion? How could you evolve into something else, or are you just continuing being that champion?
Yeah, I'm just out here trying to save the earth. So it's something that's important to me outside of wrestling is environmental conservation, animal rights, things like that. So that's what I try and translate to my work in the ring.
Oh, interesting. So before we close off this interview, because you have a very important match retaining your championship later on.
That's right.
For sure. No, how could Bryce Donnavan even think he has a chance, anything? Yeah, it's laughable, actually. But you have an open mic now to say anything you want to say before we close this interview.
So to all the fans of the Wrestlers and Nerds podcast, all the wrestling fans in Denmark and listening here in the United States, thank you for listening. And I appreciate you being a fan of mine, fan of the podcast, and watching us both grow in the wrestling industry, because like you said, we all have this shared passion, the shared love for the wrestling industry. So thank you for coming on this ride with us, and we hope to make you proud.
And thank you, Leo, and for being on this podcast. It's been an uttermost pleasure for me to talking with you, feeling your passion, and following you going into the future.
Me as well. Thank you very much for having me. This right here, this VPW championship, I'm going to walk into the building as the VPW champion tonight, and I'm going to walk out as the VPW champion, because Bryce Donnavan is not going to choke slam me, and he's not going to take my championship.
Because he didn't eat his vegetables.
That's right. And there's only one son of the sun. And the pro wrestling world and the VPW championship revolve around me.
And that's the final words. So, Leo Sparrow, thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for being an amazing wrestler. And hopefully, we will talk to you again in a few years to talk about your progress in pro
Sounds
wrestling.
great.
Because as you have a passion, we have a passion for pro wrestling, and we just started this podcast. I feel like we just started, even though we've been around for 2 years now. And even though for every episode that we do, I just feel more and more passion for pro wrestling. So
Love it.
yeah, thank you again. And I don't want to say good luck, because you don't need good luck.
Thank you. But I'll take
So
it anyway.
yeah, good luck with the match. And to everyone watching out there, go and follow Leo Sparrow.
That's
So
right.
please
At No Steak All Sizzle. You can find me on any social media. ProWrestlingTees.com/Leo Sparrow. LeoSparrow.com. I've got some cool merch up there. I've got croc gibbets. I've got t-shirts. I've got stickers. I've got 8x10s. I've got anything you need.
You can find it. So, and we have this one last word for everyone watching and listening out there. Remember, you have to watch wrestling live.